What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight. Today, I have a longtime friend and my brother from the Peninsula District days, one of the best athletes to play at Kecoughtan High School. And I say that with honor and pride. So much I respect this guy that I even put on the Kecoughtan green. It's not the same, but in respect to my guy, today we have Chip Laws in the building on the Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight. Chip, how you doing, man?
Good, good. Much appreciated. Thank you for the kind words, brother. I appreciate it. I feel the same.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no doubt, man. And I've had another warrior on here a while back. I had Tony Jordan on here, and we had a lot of
Yeah.
fun reflecting on the Hampton High, Kecoughtan battles and just the Peninsula District battles in general. But before we get into that time frame, I want to talk to you about. I always like to give my guests a chance to tell their story a little bit. Like, so we're
Right.
both from H Town, Hampton, Virginia, but I
Yeah.
want to talk about what do you remember growing up? Obviously, the 757 is so known now, but we were there part of like the building of it, before back when it was
Right.
the 804.
804.
People don't
Right.
realize
Right.
that.
Yep.
But talk
Yep.
about growing up, man, like, your family life and people that influenced you. We
Yeah,
talked off air
man.
about your mom. So just talk about that.
Yep. 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 So I moved to the area. So I'm originally from I was born in Greensboro, North Carolina, and then I moved from Clarksville, Virginia, when we were, I think I was 10, up to Hampton. And then when I moved there, my dad was riding around and looking at newspapers trying to figure out, where can we get you into the football program? And he ended up taking me over to Phoebus. So I started with the Phoebus Panthers.
Wow.
I played there for about maybe intermediate, maybe like 3 or 4 years. I played with you name it. I played with them at the Panthers, and then I ended up playing for. I moved to YH Thomas. So the first year YH Thomas came on the scene, that's when I went to YH Thomas. I played with Damon, Devin. We kind of put that collective team together and had a nice little run. I think Aberdeen was our rival at that time.
I'm an Aberdeen
And all
Raider.
strong. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, and then from there, man, I played all the way through, um, all the way to juniors. And then I left, I think my ninth grade year. And then I went and played JV at Kecoughtan. And that's where, that high school rivalry legacy started at. So yeah, yeah, man. It was a good time. Growing up, I grew up in Cherry Acres.
Yeah.
So Joe Fluellen, the Williams brothers, Michael, Fred, Eric, I watched them grow up, man. Those were kind of my idols in the neighborhood. I always wanted to be like Joe. You know what I mean? He was number two at first. So I was like, I gotta wear number two growing up. I remember my dad taking me to the football games and seeing them. I think that was like 80, maybe 87 when they beat Hampton.
Yes. Yes.
Eric was a quarterback. Yeah, Eric was quarterback. And then and yeah, man, from that point on, I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to make sure we beat Hampton. So that was always in the back of my mind, even growing up as a kid.
You now you mentioned some names. I was gonna shout out to the Williams brothers and also Devin and
Yeah,
and, and Damon. I mean those guys were to me slept on, dynamic athletes.
yeah,
But I want to ask you this, man. You were a very versatile athlete, and
yeah,
yeah, I look at my son now. My son, is an athlete. When I go in his room, he don't have no posters on the wall, and it's a different time. It's more social media. So I ask him, who does he model his game after? He has a few people, but for you and us growing up during that era, for me, it was more
yeah.
linemen, offensive D linemen. I was a Washington football fan, the Hogs. But for you, who did you watch growing up? Like when you turn the TV on the weekend, college or pros, who did you check for when you were like, hey, this guy is someone I want to play like?
So growing up, Jerry Rice was always my favorite player
Hmm.
across the board. I grew up a Miami Hurricanes college fan.
Mm,
So 80s era Hurricanes, you name it. And I never really wanted to model my game after them, but I always wanted to play both sides of the ball. I always wanted to play corner. And it was not probably, I want to say, man, maybe not until maybe like the ninth or 10th grade where I really, really, really started watching college football, and concentrating on the positions. And I can't give you a specific player that I was modeling my game after because I was just watching everybody. watching the safeties, watching the corners, watching the linebackers. I was kind of just looking at how they played the field, how they watched the field. Because I knew, I was a small guy playing running back. I really wasn't that big for the most part. But I know that I could move and I could play with the best of them. You can ask any of them, pros, college athletes now, we had those conversations, but I never really modeled my game out there. I mean, like I said, man, it was guys in the neighborhood that I wanted to be like, dude. Like, seriously, Joe Flew, Eric, and Eric was my quarterback coach when I got to Kecoughtan. So I know we'll get there a little later on, but yeah, I never really wanted to be or model my game after anyone for the most part, but I kind of wanted to make sure that I was able to play at a high level at any time. And I think I did that for the most part.
Well, you mentioned Kecoughtan. Let's jump into that, man, because first of all, man, shout out to your coach Curt Newsome. Here's
Coach,
the guy.
yeah,
Here's the guy. And I'm gonna ask you about him right now.
yeah,
Here's the guy that I knew of and knew from a distance, being in Hampton, and had the privilege to get to know him a little bit more during the VHSL All-Star Game week, and then as I got older. I found out later when he ended up at the time was coaching at Virginia Tech. I would go up to Tech and see him. That's my school. And I
hmm
found out later, he told me this, or maybe I found out from someone else, that when I was being recruited, Coach Newsome not only told recruiters about me when there was recruiters there to see you guys, he told them about me and Lloyd Tucker and Tyrone Tynes, and he even put together a highlight tape for me without me knowing. This is before we had huddle and all of that.
yeah,
So man,
yeah,
he's a straight up first class guy. But I didn't have, you know who I played for. Mike Smith.
yeah,
So
absolutely,
you love him or hate him,
absolutely,
Evil Empire, whatever. I love him too. But you played for Coach Newsome, who I think was a great coach, man, and a great man, a
yeah.
great father. Tell me what it was like, man.
Phenomenal, man, from day one. I actually remember Coach Newsome coming to uh, our games when Damon, Devin, myself, Shank, Winston, like I remember us playing Reckley and seeing Coach Newsome on the sidelines and just wondering, like, man, is he here to see me? Is he here to see us? And then kind of getting to know him and then playing, getting to Kecoughtan and then having conversations with him about expectations and things like that. And then eventually getting to play for him once I moved up to varsity. And he was phenomenal, man. He's a phenomenal coach. He's still a phenomenal coach. He gave me every opportunity that I asked for and some that I didn't ask for. Uh, but yeah, man, he's a phenomenal dad, uh, role model. He's all around great guy, man. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to have a conversation
Oh
with him.
yes, oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, man. As you know, I mean, Coach Newsome is top tier, one of the best coaches that came through the Peninsula District. And I know he was a little younger than some of the other coaches, especially getting to Kecoughtan and we were running the veer, so it was a little different, but loved it. Wouldn't trade it for the world. The
Yeah.
entire coaching staff, Coach Newsome, he led the way, man.
So, you mentioned Coach Newsom and you mentioned the other coaches. I've had so many guys from the 90s and late 80s. I even got more lined up I've always said from that era. I felt like 86 to the early 2000s. And
Yeah.
I stopped there was the golden era for the Peninsula District. You're talking
hmm
about Ferguson at the time before it closed. You guys, Phoebus, Ward, Hampton, Denby. I mean, there was really no nights off. Even Lafayette, you had to beat them, right? But you talk
Yeah.
about the Hall of Fame level coaches, Coach Newsom, Coach Mike Smith, Coach Bill D,
hmm
Coach Kozlowski, Coach Tommy Reeman at Ferguson, who was running the spread, running shoot before it became fashionable, right? Would
And
you
listen,
do you
that
think that
spread was something. Whew.
wasn't it? So do you think that was the golden era?
I personally, I do.
Okay.
I think it was I'm not gonna say more competitive. I will say that when you look at the coaches that you just mentioned and you looked at the caliber of players per team, even those Fergusons. I mean, you had Aaron Brooks over there, dude. Like people forget about Aaron, but Aaron was, when you look at those stats throughout the year, he was throwing for like maybe 1,000 some change every single season, even
Every
on losing seasons. And his name, we don't say his name enough, man. He doesn't get the props that I mean, he did his thing and went through, but the Peninsula District, he was doing his thing a little bit out there in Ferguson, not being, the team wasn't that good, but he was still a standout player, man, out at Ferguson. That spread offense was something special.
It was very special. And of course, I think you talked about him not getting his credit. I completely agree. And I think it was similar to what happened with my cousin Michael Vick with Ronald Curry being overshadowed. Same
Yeah,
same thing with Aaron because you had Bethel with Allen Iverson. So it was almost like he was overshadowed. But people down there in the 7-5, and especially on our side of the water, we knew. We knew what he was,
right.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
and let me ask you this, and I asked Tony Jordan, and now that you're done playing, I'm not trying to get a hot take. I want the inside scoop. What was it like? Because I know we all, before the game, after the game, Black Mac around the way, Midtown Park, we all brothers. It was a special thing. We competed hard,
Right.
but we looked out, we partied together. But we're competitors, especially down there during that time. What was it like when y'all were preparing for us and Phoebus, especially, you know, it was always between us, and getting to the regional championship. What was Coach Newsome and the staff? What were practices like during that time? Was it, I mean, I know him and Coach Smith are brothers, they're friends, but was it intense?
It was intense, man. Every single week. One thing about Coach Newsome is he likes to prepare. Okay. So I'm talking about you watching film, we going into practices. We might even have somebody playing Walter Ford today. Or we might have somebody playing Sean Hamlet today. That's how we went into our practices. Didn't matter who we were playing. It could be Phoebus. We preparing for TJ Carrington. Or we preparing for Tory Edge. And if you get ready to play Bethel, who you got to prepare for, right? It really wasn't a prepare because you didn't realize what or know what Bubba Chuck or any of his supporting cast were going to be doing that night. And even the other teams, it was always a task, and Coach Newsome always went into it 100% prepared. I call myself the don't laugh when I say this, but I was like the early Jamarcus Russell, right? Because coming in playing quarterback, dude, I was not watching film. He would, are you watching? And I'm like, yeah, coach, I'm paying attention, man. It was just different for me because I had never played quarterback. So, watching film and trying to figure out these defenses, I'm like, coach, just let me go out here and play, which he did, I think he kind of knew that I was an athlete and I just needed to get myself out there and get the ball in my hands and let me do what I can do. But yeah, it was always intense, man, especially coming to the rivalry games with you guys and with right down the road at Phoebus. Him and Bill D were super close. So, and that's a rival right down the street. So it was always intense, man. Always intense.
And Chip, man, just talk a little bit about because you referenced, and I knew this because I saw it for 4 years, but you talked about how versatile you were. I remember after Tony Jordan left, you became the quarterback. But before, just talk about the different positions you played, because now guys tend to specialize. But I mean, you played everything, right? Running back, receiver, slot. You returned some kicks too, right?
I was on the punt team. I returned kickoffs. I played corner, 10th grade and 11th grade, running back, receiver. So I was doing pretty much whatever coach asked me to do, man. Chip, we need you this week here. Chip, we need you this week here. Chip. I was never one to shy away from that. So it was never an issue. I think it did kind of hurt me in the recruiting process a little bit moving forward because, although I didn't specialize in anything, I was around the field. You give me the ball, I can pretty much do it. But for the most part, I think that hurt me a little bit. But I know that Coach Newsome did that. He was putting me in the right position for me and for the team to win. So at the end of the day, it was all about the team for me. And I wanted to do exactly what I needed to do for us to get the best opportunity to win a game that week.
No doubt, man. And you did a great job of that, seriously. And, you
Appreciate
and I,
that.
we're on social media together and we've known each other for a long time. You see me post different things. I love the nostalgia with the Darling Stadium and Todd Stadium, the Friday night lights, and even going across the water. And I'm gonna save the Hampton Senior game for a second because that you got off that night, and we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah,
No, hold on. But are there any other games when you look back? I know we old and gray now, But when someone says, "Hey, Chip, man, name some of your favorite games during that time when you were like, yo, I was in my bag that night." Are there some games that when you reflect on, your time, any year, your 4 years at Kecoughtan, you were like, yo, this is the game I was in the zone, or I enjoyed this so
Yeah.
much. Is there a game or two that comes to mind?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So the first, I think my first one would probably be the Bethel. I think we played Bethel. I was in the 11th grade. I think it was my first time playing Chuck in Allen Iverson in high school.
Mm.
Um, and it was I think I played running back that game. Um, but that was our first time really playing high school against each other. Um, that game, Booker T. Washington was another game that stood out my senior year. And although we lost the playoff Phoebus game, and we lost 3-0, I watched that like maybe
Oh
2 months
yeah,
ago.
I remember that.
We'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that.
I remember
And
that.
then the Mentriel game, man, where we were able to clinch our first Peninsula District title in 1993, man. That was, I think, out of all of those games, that was the highlight for me. It was we went into overtime, ended up winning it into overtime, but yeah, those are some of the ones. And then the first one, I'll say that. I'll let you talk about
Well,
that one.
I'm going to lead into that because you did something to me that night. I'm humble enough to remember, but hold on. I remember because Menchville for the first time in years they were good. They beat us for the first time in 22 years. They had that big running back named Malcolm, or
Malcolm,
I can't remember his
it was
name.
two of them. They
It
had
was
two
two of
running
them.
backs. Both of them were huge.
They were two big running backs. They had my guy. Shout out to my guy Robert Hunt, who went on to UVA. Had a great
Mhm.
career, played in the NFL. But Mitchville was well coached, and we lost to y'all. And we had to win that game to get a share. And they beat us,
Yeah.
and they played y'all the following week. And that was you got off that game. The Phoebus game though. Before we talk about that big one you had against us your senior year, that Phoebus game, I remember that was, if I'm not correct, that was our senior year, right?
Yeah, it was our senior
That was
year. Yep.
after
That
some.
was the win. That was the game for us to win to go to play Norcom, I think it was. I think
Yes.
we would have played Norcom the next week.
Hmm. And I
Yeah.
believe that was a game. It was very physical. Somebody had passed away or gotten
Yeah, yeah. So
stabbed.
that was the first Phoebus game, but throughout the season, so that was a good buddy of mine, man. And I actually think from that perspective, not using that as an excuse, but emotionally, like that was my little homie,
Hmm.
right? And it was just from that point on, it was kind of emotional for me for the rest of the season. But
Hmm.
going into that playoff game, we felt good, man. We knew that we could come in. We matched up pretty well with Phoebus. Um, we came out the first half. We came out flat, and we kind of knew it was going to be a dog fight from there on in. It was 0-0. We came out the second half and it was raining, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's the worst for somebody with not real big hands." That was a nightmare, man. That was a nightmare. But we still ended up having a good battle that game. I mean, they came out on top. They beat us 3-0. Um, it was a good game, hard fought game all the way down to the end. They gave us every opportunity. We had opportunities that we didn't capitalize on. Coach Newsome coached a great game plan going into the game. We just didn't, we fell short.
Yeah,
That was a good team. Hats out to them guys that year,
yeah,
man. They
they did.
played they played a hell of a season
They
that
did.
season.
That was a weird year because we beat Phoebus that year, and we anyway. It was like kind of a round robin thing, but you guys had a great year. That y'all had a great year in sports because if I remember correctly, people laugh at me. I'm kind of a historian. Y'all won a district in baseball, football, and I want
Mhm.
to say basketball.
Basketball too. Yep.
Yep, it was
Yep.
just a great year. Which I back then I was salty. I was salty, but now no. So let me tell you. Let me take you back to a game I remember, and we're playing y'all to start the season, and it's our senior year. And of course, it's always a big matchup, and
Yep.
I always felt, and again, I'm not lying. You can ask anybody who knew this. I told Tyrone Times this and other guys up from Myron Newsome. I always felt like you needed to play Kecoughtan early in the season because you guys got better every week. And I
Mhm.
remember we played y'all to start the season. Coach Smith did not stay with us that week. He didn't even coach that game. He had a death in the family. But I'm not
Oh
making
wow.
excuses. Yeah, people don't know that. But
Yeah,
I
no clue.
remember y'all
Yeah.
beat us 33-16, and you put on a show. So I was on the edge at that time. I was playing DTAC. We ran the wide tackle six, so they had me at DTAC on DN.
Mhm.
And my cousin played with you, Joseph Garrett.
Yeah.
He
Big
was a
Joe.
tight end, and you came around that edge and you shook me. Then you also shook Brian Malo, and you were in your because you ran that. Y'all were like Phoebus a little bit, not as heavy with the run, but y'all
Yeah.
ran that option. And before that game, I knew you played with an edge, but I never seen you really talk trash. And one
Right.
time you got in the end zone, and I remember we made eye contact, and you just looked at me and stuck your tongue out like, ah. And I was like, yo, I mean, you were just chirping. Damien and Devin, it was like all those years we had those close wins. Hampton,
Yeah.
y'all came out and y'all spanked us. And I remember Morocco Brown, he was in his bag. It was just a great game for y'all, man. But I remember that night. I always knew you were a baller, but that night I remember talking to my dad like, "Yo, Chip is the real deal." Like you were just really. I mean, I knew you were good before, but that night
Right. Right.
the way you played. What do you? And I remember also too, in Darling Stadium, people coming on the field. One, you probably I don't know if you remember her, Angelita Dozier. She was our year too. She came on the field, was like, "Yeah, we crushed that crap." I mean, it was just, people hated us, but at the same time, looking back, you guys deserved it when you outplayed us, and you were just special to that night. I mean, Coach Newsome called a great game plan. I really thought y'all
Yeah.
had a chance to win states that year. I mean, y'all were that good.
Yeah.
What do you remember about
Yeah.
that night besides beating us? Do you remember being in your bag that night, just running that
I
option?
do, man. I do, honestly. And people might look at this and be like, man, Chip is no, I'm not pulling your leg. When I tell you that night I went and watched as a kid, watch Kecoughtan be Hampton, I always wanted that feeling. And I didn't get it up until that point. But then
Mhm.
leaning into that game, in my mind, I was like, you know what? I'm doing everything I can for us to win tonight. Everything.
Yeah,
Didn't matter.
yeah.
Um, and I just, Coach, like you said, Coach Newsome called a great game. He put me exactly where I needed to be to make plays. Our defense was stellar, keeping Walt, inside
Yeah, y'all
versus
contained
him
Walt.
getting
Yeah,
outside.
we couldn't get to the outside. I remember that. Y'all contained Walt. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that one time he got outside, he went for like 45 yards. And
Mhm.
then we're like, look, we've been we've been practicing this all week long. We already told you guys you cannot get outside. But yeah, man, it was just, I appreciate the words, but it was a dog fight. But at the end, I was super focused that game, man, for some reason. I don't know what it was, but I really wanted to get in there and do what I needed to do to help the team win. It was kind of really the first time that I was solidified as a leader,
Mhm.
trying to get my guys. Morocco was the leader of the team, hands down. But it was kind of that time where they were looking at me to make some decisions and make some plays, and we came out on top. So I there's still certain plays that I remember and things like that for the most part. But yeah, man, that was an awesome night. I think that might have been my first like real TV or news interview or anything. Like I remember my dad, I got
Yeah,
home,
you showed
my
out.
mom was like, "You were on TV?" Yeah. So it was pretty exciting. It was a good time, man. It was definitely a good time.
No, it was a great time for y'all, man. In respect to y'all, man. And again, it's amazing because I always say that's the goal. Nothing against these youngins playing now, but you talk
Mhm.
about pride too. I was on varsity as a freshman, started 10th, 11th, and 12th, and I remember going against Morocco. But before him, it was Lawrence Lewis, Mike Williams,
Yep.
Macy
Yes.
Brooks, Matt Patterson,
Yep.
Cal Key.
Yep.
You go back, man.
All dog.
Yeah, man, all dogs, man. And again,
Yeah.
they came close. It was always a 17-14, 17-10 win, 21
Yep.
20, and it was just crazy. And then that year, everything came together for y'all. And like I said, that night, you were in your bag, shaking everybody. You read the ball right. Morocco, you gave it to him one time. I remember one time he got in the end zone. I was looking at him. I was like, man, I hate you. On that fullback dive, and he got up, man. You guys just were really well coached, man. Um, do you remember? I mean, not to remember, but what do you think about when you look at Morocco? You mentioned him being a leader, and you talk about underappreciated, because it's tough down there, man. It's like you
Yeah.
have so many great players like Myron New, and we're going to forget somebody, so I apologize. I mean, there's so
Right,
many.
right.
I always felt
Yeah,
like Morocco, because he played football, basketball, and baseball, and excelled in all of them. I felt like, despite all that, because he was a first class guy, his dad was a legend, and
yeah,
Milan is well respected. I feel like it wasn't so much hating, but we do, but we didn't appreciate him as much. And when you look at him
absolutely.
now, he is doing great things in the NFL, man. Are you surprised
Yeah,
by that?
man.
And do you agree?
No, I'm not surprised. Man, Morocco, I remember just growing up and being a little younger. We were in middle school and high school and just having conversations with Rock, that he was always super focused, in whatever we were doing. You know what I mean? It could be football, basketball. I didn't play baseball. But those two things, and then just life in general. You talked about his dad. His dad was a great, great dad. Brothers, younger brother, older brother, like they're just a great family all the way around. And Brock he was a natural leader, man. On the court, off the court, on the field or off the field.
Hmm.
So yeah, we it definitely got to give him his flowers, because he's doing a great thing now that we really don't get to see a lot, right? He's
Yeah.
behind the scenes building these NFL teams, to become Super Bowl contenders. So yeah, he was a phenomenal player, athlete, person all the way around the board, man. And we did, like you said, we don't celebrate him enough, man. We even my buddy Winston, man, he doesn't get celebrated enough, but Winston was a stellar corner for us, dude.
Yes. No, he
And
was.
yeah, he's from the Rose, so that's another one. He doesn't get his flowers, but he was a stellar player as a corner he started 10th grade all the way through. And we just got to celebrate our guys a little bit more. And you having this platform, I appreciate you bringing this to the forefront, just so we can get our stories out there, man, and
Absolutely.
celebrate each other.
And I'm gonna
Celebrate
get
each
some of
other,
those
man.
guys on, man, because again, man, it's great that we know about Ronald Curry and Michael Vick and Allen
Yeah.
Iverson and Leroy Keys. Those guys were all-time greats, but at the same time, don't let's not minimize what guys like yourself did. I look at
Yeah.
now having children and seeing how hard it is to make varsity, and I coach kids, and I see now as a father and as a leader and as a coach, and I see these kids who do put in work, but they're limited with size or they don't have the same resources.
Right.
But same thing with us. Yet we found a way, and a lot of guys during that time made impacts. And the great thing, just like you're doing now, you're making an impact in your community as a father and as a productive member of society. I think that's why I do the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight, man. And hopefully I get some of those guys on, that we mentioned. But
Absolutely.
taking it back to your time. So, you beat us that night. You had a great 4 years, man. And, you know, obviously we talk about the lineage that is the Peninsula District with, the tradition
Mhm.
and pageantry of this guy goes to Howard, this guy's went to Tech, this guy went to Maryland, this guy went to Norfolk State, Kermit
Yeah.
Bug, guys like that. For you, when did recruiting happen? Because you mentioned earlier, when Coach Newsome's, having you so versatile and spread out and diverse as an athlete, what school showed interest and what happened with that?
Yeah, so I wasn't so and that's a good segue, because that goes back to what we'll talk about a little later on, is schooling and being focused and things like that, and thinking about what's important, right? I didn't have a lot of recruiters coming in. I think for the most part, they were looking at my grades, and at that point, it was like a 2.0 and like an 800, I think, on the SATs.
700.
And I wasn't super focused in school, man. Yeah, I wasn't super focused, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because I know people are saying this and kids are going to see it, and I want them to know that you got to be super focused all the way through on everything and every aspect, right? And I wasn't super focused, so I think I had the biggest school that was recruiting me was Tennessee.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, they were recruiting me, and they wanted me to go to Butler up in
Oh, in
Kansas.
Kansas, that's where Myron Newsome and Walt Ford and them went.
Right, yeah. So my parents were like, well, more or less moms, she really wasn't feeling me going way out to Kansas, which, I get it. That would have been my first time coming from home, leaving home, but HU was also recruiting me. So I ended up going to HU for a little bit. And you get to college, and there's a lot of different experiences that you go through, a lot of different things that you go through. And once again, we go back to not being focused and not concentrating on what the task is at hand, right? So I didn't really get those opportunities while I was there, to get on the field and be productive and things like that. So I ended up leaving there, and then I went to Elizabeth City for a little stint, and I came back to HU. It was just a whirlwind of things, man, that happened and went on. And unfortunately, I really didn't get to live out my college dream of playing football like a lot of my peers and family members and things like that got to do. So that's one thing that I continue to think about from time to time. Not harp on it, because it was a learning lesson for me. And it's also a teachable moment for me to be able to give on to other people and other kids, and
Absolutely.
who go to play sports, and just let them know, man, you gotta remain focused. They're going to be distractions, and it's all on how you remain focused and how you get through it to get to the next level.
No question. And you know what? I appreciate you saying that, man. And let me just say this. Um, I've had a lot of guys on this show, man. Ahmad Hawkins came on and talked about how he went through academic probation and, and
Mhm.
almost got out put out of UVA. And Marseille Brown was on here. And, he
Yeah,
went to South Carolina, then went to Hampton, similar situation, focused.
yeah,
He said being a knucklehead. I remember,
yeah,
I know this is your legacy spotlight, but to be transparent,
right,
my first year living off campus, Tyrone Times was one of my roommates, along with my guy, God rest his soul, Joseph Casuccio was my
yeah.
roommate. And I remember, man, that first them interims came out in that first semester. I mean, I had D's and C minuses and incompletes because we were in the apartment. We playing Nas, we up till 2, 3 playing Madden, NC2A, girls coming through. It's and I still got
Being
practice.
a college student,
Yeah.
man.
And so you are not alone. And I think
Right.
because we're athletes, we hold ourselves to a higher standard. But if you think about it and take a step back, we know people, a lot of people that don't play ball go through that it's a tough transition to
Yep,
go from, the
it is.
infrastructure of Kecoughtan, Hampton, Phoebus, or whatever school, then you off at wherever. Even though you in the same city, you still on your own,
Right.
being self-sufficient, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing too, I think played a big part, is that looking at the big picture, I should have got away, because I still have friends here, right? I was able to access them. They were able to still access me to be able to do things outside of being on campus.
Hmm.
So yeah, like I said, it's all a learning experience, man. Like I said, I think about it. I wouldn't change it, because it would not have made me the man that I am today. So yeah, it is what it is.
And you talk about, like, being there in the distractions, man, but you eventually overcame it and you finished up, right?
Yeah.
And
So no, I didn't finish. So I ended up not finishing. I ended up leaving Hampton in 97. I think it was 97, close to 98. I think I had maybe 20 credit hours left. And I was just like, dude, I can't, I'm done. I can't do school no more. I started cutting hair. So I was a barber from that point on all the
I
way
never
up
knew that.
till, yeah, yeah, I was a barber, man. I cut hair all the way up to 20, I think I was 26 or 27 in Hampton. So I worked at a few barbershops in Hampton. The last one was Canary Cuts out on Pembroke.
Oh yeah, 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 Canard
Yeah,
Cut.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the last shop that I was in before I moved up to before I met my wife and moved up to Northern Virginia.
Oh yeah, shout out to your wife Courtney, man.
Yeah.
She knows my wife, Shanice. They used to work at Booth.
Yeah, yeah. They used to
Yeah.
work together at Booze.
Yeah, I
Yep.
remember she told me, she was like, you know a guy named Chip? I said, Chip Laws? That's my guy. But again, man, it's good to have perspective because I think,
Absolutely.
I hear your story and I hear your legacy and insight. Again, people see Chip Laws that know you from high school, the dynamic athlete, but we in the same grind, same struggle, trying to make it through, trying to time management, trying to figure out who we are, where we're going,
Hmm.
managing the expectations, and it's tough. But yet you are here still telling your story and your legacy, and
Absolutely.
hey, um, with that being said, when you talk about, now it's crazy because I remember seeing us, around the way, and then at social events and parties and things like that. When you look back, man, what is one of the things when you look back on your career? You mentioned not being as dedicated even when you were young and Coach Newsome. You compared yourself to Jamarcus Russell.
Mhm.
If you could go back, and we all got to live with regrets. If you could go
Right,
back,
absolutely.
what would you do? Not so much the college piece. I'm talking about high school. As good as you were,
I,
what would you do? Like, what would you go back and change or improve upon?
um, for the most, I think studying the tape, man. Because now that I've gotten older and I've coached, um, all the way through, coach my son playing football all the way through, and then coach a little bit longer. And then I think now understanding the game as being older and knowing the ins and outs and what I could have done even more as a quarterback, and learning the offense, learning the defense, reading defenses, watching film, just concentrating, just being a little bit more focused, especially that senior year. And like I said, it no fault to Coach Newsome. Coach Newsome came to me and said, "Listen, we're in a pickle right now. we really going into that senior year, we really didn't have a quarterback. We had quarterbacks, but I think in order to give our team every opportunity to win, he wanted to just give me an opportunity to see if I could step up and do it. I thought about it. He brought Eric Williams in to coach me up, to help me kind of learn the option offense, which I did, to the most part, right? I mean, for the most part, because like I said, I really wasn't into watching film like that. But I think if I would have been a little bit more focused on that, I probably would have had a little bit. Not that I didn't have a good career as a quarterback in my senior year, but I think I probably would have been a little bit even a little bit better, had I just concentrated more and watched more film and just studied a little bit more.
Hearing you say this, because we've never had these conversations, and so this legacy spotlight, I remember talking to Mike, my cousin Mike, when he, went through his situation and got out. He talked about how he was going to take the game serious. I hear you, and I hear so many guys. It's amazing, and I'm going to ask this question: Is it safe
Mhm.
to ask or speculate during that time you were so gifted that it was just like I'm just trying to play. I don't need to do this.
That was it.
Yeah,
That was it. Because I figured, when you if you think about it, man, when you are playing a skill position, um, you're not that you're taught to watch film and to kind of study the game, but when you realize when you get to a certain point that you have certain abilities that may give you an advantage over the person in front of you,
hmm
you're not going to take it serious to the point where you're like, I need to do this every single week, or I need to watch this film to see exactly what Vic is going to be doing on the other side of that ball, on the defensive end, or Milo, or whoever it is, so that I can read you, right? So it was me going into games like, if he doesn't jump out to get that pitch, man, I'm gone. I'm not thinking about it, right? So, and those are the things that I would do if I'm riding rock through the hole and I don't see that tackle crash down. I'm gonna get rock the ball so he can keep it moving. So those were like the only things that I concentrated on. It was nothing outside of that. I did pick up some passing techniques. I used to watch Florida State. I used to watch Charlie Ward,
Reward.
and I picked up on some of his play fakes, his play action, and things like that. So that did help me a little bit. But yeah, man, I mean, for the most part, watching film, I definitely would have did that a lot more, had I known, at that time that I needed to do that
Pretty
to
amazing.
be a better quarterback.
Yeah, no, it's just pretty amazing that you were out there killing it like that. Same thing with Mike and other people, and you were just out there, basically freestyling, making plays.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned coaching, and you mentioned coaching your son. Are you still actively coaching?
No, no, I stopped. As soon as he stopped, I stopped. But
Okay.
I am trying to get back. So we're moving back home. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna try to jump back into it when I move back home. So
So
yeah,
y'all moving to because I saw that on the book. Y'all are moving where?
yeah.
Which one?
Back to the crib. Yeah. So but we're gonna be in Suffolk, but we'll be back down for
So they
sure.
need you. They need you.
You
Wherever you
said
go.
it.
No, no, no. I'm being respect. And again, this is not taking shots at any program. And I'm not even.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know if you keep up, but I try to. My mom and dad and everybody live back home. My sister and Myron Newsome. When I go home, I check
Yeah.
people that still live back down there, and it is so different. And things evolve, and sometimes things you had a good run in the ends, but I don't
Right.
know if you're gonna be able to get to the Peninsula District, but even over there on the south side, you have your Maury's, you have your Ocean Lakes, you have your Oscar Smiths, who just won
Hmm.
state, but it's not the same. I think actually, and maybe I'm maybe too caught up in nostalgia, but I look back during the time we played, and even shortly thereafter, the guys we played for. It's tough to find a guy like Coach Newsome who really cared about you and
Yeah.
also would do stuff that had nothing to do with football. Like
Yeah.
make sure you were going to class, call you, come by your house, talk to your mom. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's a shortage of very, very good high school coaches, even assistant coaches. Because for us, man,
Yeah.
Coach Mitchell, God rest his soul, and Coach Mann had just as much as a big impact on me as the other guys. Um,
Absolutely.
so I know I can't. I know I'm sorry, Courtney. I'm not telling Chip to pick up something else. I'm saying you should consider it though. You know what I'm saying? You
No,
should.
I am. I am, Andy. I am. It's just I miss it. Um, and I being in, we are in West Virginia right now. It's a little different, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to get involved in it because I knew eventually we were going to be leaving. But yeah, now knowing that we're going back home, I'm definitely going to try to, you know, see where I could fit in at. Just to be able to give back, man. I got a lot of built up skills and secrets and things that I want to be able to give these high school kids, man, just to give them some gems to get to that next level. And I would be stingy of not sharing my God-given gifts to everybody else, right?
I agree.
Yeah, especially if I'm not, I'm not using them no more. So why not drop some gems off on some other kids?
Well, let me just add this, and I have just really one more question, but I do want to make this statement to you. I think when I talk to Marseille Brown and so many guys, and so many these legacy spotlights, I love doing. I'm learning stuff about you I never knew. I think
Hmm.
God had a plan for you when you went through your different things. To now, you mentioned your son, not just to pour into your children, into your family, but also,
Yeah,
man, you were one hell of a player, but you also
yeah,
had a few things that didn't work out. So
right,
I heard Mike Tomlin say one time, I'm successful. I'm paraphrasing, but I remember this quote. I'm successful because I failed at what I really wanted to do. Because he wanted to be an NFL player. He was there, but didn't have the long career. And now he's one of
right,
the best coaches, never had a losing record. That insight he has is making some great players in Pittsburgh and impacting people, even when he comes back home and does those camps. You have that same ability,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely, man. Yeah. So I appreciate it. And like I said, you having this platform, man, has given us, an opportunity to be to basically say our piece, right? Say our piece and put it out there and let people know kind of where we are, what we've been doing. And I did go back and finish school. I went back, I did finish, I got my degree. So, if you're hearing this, it was, I think I was 32, 33, but I went back and I finished. And now I'm kind of doing, I'm in the corporate America and doing some different things. But it's more about just being focused, man, and knowing exactly what you need to do, concentrating on that, and then following, create your goals and whatever you're going to do, go at it 110%, just like you do on a football field, basketball court, any type of sport that you're doing, you got to go into life with the same mentality.
no doubt, man. Just two more questions, Chip. I do want to
Yeah.
give you a chance to speak on your lovely wife and your family in general. It's crazy. We knew each other when we were 14, 15, 16, running around
Yeah.
Pembroke and LaSalle and Hampton
Right.
News. Now we seasoned vets as fathers and
Hmm.
husbands. Just talk about what she means in your family in general, what they mean to you, and how much they've been a blessing to you.
Yeah, man. My wife saved me, man. I was, like I said, I was cutting hair. I was in Hampton, just running around being ignorant. I wasn't a knucklehead for the most part, but I wasn't at the age I was not where I wanted to be, right? And I met my wife, ended up moving up to Northern Virginia. And then, since then she groomed me, man. I mean, literally, she helped me become the man that I am today, the father I am today. My kids are great. They help me, in different aspects of their lives. And we collectively, we got this great family. We got this great family thing together, man. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it for the world. Wouldn't change it for the world.
That's so great, man. Well, this is the part of the show where I let my guests give their final thoughts, man. And you've already dropped a lot of gems, man. So at this point, man, you're talking to the new Chip Laws, the new Morocco Browns, the new Brett Harpers, the new Dwight Vicks. You talked about some of your shortcomings and pitfalls, but how you still came
Mhm.
back and rose above, and now you are pouring back into your family and you're working and you're productive. But at the same time, just give some feedback or some insight. Right now, somebody may catch this video and they may be doubting themselves or thinking about just giving up or just saying, you know what, I'm gonna go here and just kick it and not use my talents. What advice do you want to tell them if given what you went through, if somebody could have told you the same thing when you were struggling? What do you want to say
Yeah.
now to them?
So the good thing is what's funny is a lot of people, I had a lot of individuals uh contacting me when I first dropped out of school, coaches calling me, um, you doing the wrong thing, doing exactly what they should have been doing as coaches and as friends. But I wasn't trying to hear it, man, for whatever reason. But what I would tell any kid, grown up, any whoever it is at this point, you got to stay focused and remain focused, man. Sports are going to be there, right? Get the schoolwork done, do what you need to do in school. The sports are going to be there. Make sure that you have goals, set your goals so that you can reach them. And once you reach them, anything is possible. God is going to give you gifts, right? It's all about those gifts that you use and how you use them. And at this point, you just got to make sure that you're following your dream and you following God's plan and your plan. You put those together, it's a no-brainer, man. It's a no-brainer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Great words from a great guy, man. I appreciate you, Chip, man. So
I
again,
appreciate you.
I just want to say this again, man. For those, if you can, Chip, I'm gonna try to share some of the videos from that channel 48. There used to be channel 5. This guy was a great player, but he's a great father now. I can't wait to see him get back and coach because I know he's gonna do great things, man. Chip, I thank you for jumping on today. And to all the
Appreciate you,
people
man.
that support Chip, his family, his friends, the guys that played with him, his teammates, the guys that played against him, thank you for checking out this Legacy Spotlight. I will run this and tag everybody in it, man. And also, like I say every episode, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, make sure you try to have a positive impact and leave a great legacy. Thank you, Chip. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, boss. I appreciate you, man.
All right.